This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in Northeast Mississippi, and sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This episode is about the 2% tax. The 2% tax is a restaurant tax that is placed on food and beverages that is then invested back into the community directly. Now that Carpenter, our favorite topic, Nancy Luke Carpenter, of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation has lied to the city council not once, not twice, but three times and got her $54,000 match grant from the city as she bullied the mayor into signing. What is her next plan to get her hands on more community funds? Well, my bet is dollars to donuts. She's eyeing a cut of our 2% restaurant tax. I bet she goes to one of our local legislators to weasel her way into having them write a bill to get the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, which is a 501(c)(3), by the way, approved to get a cut of the county's 2% tax. Why do I think that? Well, because the Heritage Foundation last year had a budget of about $120,000. Approximately 20,000 of that was Nancy Carpenter's salary as the CEO. That left no room for Carpenter to wine and dine dignitaries and other friends that she likes to help feast on our tax dollars. And since she no longer has the deep pockets and never ending credit card money from the CVB, she's going to be hungry for a new source of dollars. Nope, the foundation is merely a welcome center and only needs funding to keep the lights on and pay a little bit more than minimum wage to the senior citizen docents who greet our guests. I can't imagine the foundation budget for the coming fiscal year can justify much of an increase in budget requests over last year. If last year's was roughly 110 to 120,000, I am guessing this year's is probably $120 to $130,000 budget request. So, how is Carpenter going to buy her continued seat on the Heritage Hills Alliance Board, which is a $10,000 per year buy-in by each board member? Her hotel bills at the Capitol Inn or the Westin in Jackson, and her side trips to Primos in Flowood and the bakery for her favorite cookies and coffee, and lunch at Walker's and dinner at the Manship when she goes for her MDAH, Mississippi Department of Archives and History, board meetings weekends, where she is the vice president of the board. And how is she going to pay for those $90 lunches that she likes to have in Starkville and all the fancy floral arrangements she likes to order? She can't possibly fund her lavish lifestyle on a mere $120,000 a year budget at the building and keep the lights on at her job because let's talk about this. She has burned her bridges at the city with her recent tall tales, saying that she had that $100,000 grant and then she lied and said she had to have the 54,000 and that the 39,000 was before they knew about all the rot. Him. They pretty much held their noses and paid the dollars the mayor promised in a vote. But I firmly believe that that well's dry now, too. The CVB might fund basic operations of the Welcome Center for another year, but based on recent discussions, more on that in a minute, I doubt they will continue fully funding the foundation in future budgets. The county is not interested in dealing with her. She has nothing to give them. So, where does that leave her foundation? Conducting a capital campaign? Maybe, but that's very unlikely as that is out of Nancy's realm of expertise. She's never held one. She knows how to spend dollars, but not how to raise it. Besides, that's too much like work, and Carpenter is famous for saying she's, quote, allergic to work. That leaves finding deeper pockets in town and fleecing them for her purposes. So, how can she get her grubby little mitts on the 2% tax? Back to the process. A legislator like Kabir Kareem or Chuck Younger has to introduce a bill to the legislature sometime next year. Assuming she can con someone into doing that, it has to then make it through the process of regular legislation. And then, if it gets passed, the resolution comes back to Columbus and Lowndes County and the Board of Supervisors, the City Council, the CVB, and the Link, who all have an existing interlocal agreement of how the 2% tax gets divvied up currently. They would all have to agree to give Carpenter and the foundation a piece of their pie. I think it's highly unlikely these groups would be willing to add another entity to the mix, especially considering that Carpenter will want at least 200,000, if not more. Nor would they want to meddle with their existing agreement, especially considering how the last time Carpenter had a hand in meddling with the 2% tax, it was taken away for several years and really hurt many organizations and groups in the community. Now, since the tax was reinstituted, all the recipients who are part of the interlocal agreement have worked hard together to make that money work for the community in the form of our parks and recreation areas, tourism, attracting new industries, supporting community festivals, Main Street events, etc. Carpenter's organization at the Tennessee Williams home already benefits from the 2% tax with every new yearly budget funding provided by the CVB. However, the CVB can provide funding. They do not have to provide funding. If the foundation were to directly get funding from the 2% tax via the interlocal agreement and via the CVB, the foundation would essentially be double dipping. It is not clear to me why the foundation feels they need additional monies, especially in light of their building getting a complete facelift and renovation this spring and summer, and that's supposedly already paid for with all the grants. Surely their needs have declined after all the grants she has so recently gotten from MDAH, the City of Columbus, and allegedly the Heritage Hills Alliance. The foundation does not do the pilgrimage. They don't do catfish in the alley. They gave the broken down buses back to the CVB and they've now been sent for scrap. The foundation does absolutely nothing with the Tennessee Williams Festival. That's the forte of the Columbus Arts Council and MUW. The foundation no longer has anything to do with the Arts and Antiques Show. So what exactly does the foundation do? They hand out visitor information and maps. That's it. They're not attracting tourism. Tourists are here for another event and then visit the Tennessee Williams Center, but they aren't making a special trip usually to Columbus just to see the Tennessee Williams birthplace as a rule. So the overhead there is and should be low. It really should be run by volunteers, including the director and the board. The board is currently volunteer, but the director and docents are paid, as is the board's attorney, who is on a retainer. Boards should have an attorney, especially where money and grants and employees are engaged. But back to the 2% tax. If an unprecedented move is made to approve a 501c3, the foundation, to be permitted a direct portion of the 2% tax via interlocal agreement, there are significant issues related to accountability and usage of any new dollars the foundation might receive. The foundation, as a 501c3, is not required to be transparent in how funding is used. They merely file a 990 at the end of the year that indicates grants they give or receive and the amounts. Nothing else is required. No explanation, no accountability, and zero transparency is required. The city, in its recent gift of $54,069.69 for the match share for the MDAH grant, verbally asked for transparency on their gift, but absolutely none were formally attached in the motion or anything else the council did. Again, Carpenter has been given a reward for bullying the mayor a year ago to sign the promissory note and making no appearance for a complete other year to come to the council and request the money formally. She's also being rewarded for lying 3 times to the council, and now there are zero checks or balances for how that money they are giving her in the form of a grant to be spent. Hell, they could not even get her to say if or when the building would reopen. When is anyone going to open their eyes to the shell game Carpenter is playing? Why would we even ever entertain the thought she would have a seat at the 2% tax interlocal agreement meetings? I wouldn't, but I bet she's gunning for it. If I were on the city council, the board of supervisors, the CVB, or the link, I'd be blocking her attempts to get anywhere near that money. Because once she gets her mitts on it, it will go unsupervised, unrecorded, and she will consider it her personal spending source for more fancy meals and out of town trips to expensive hotels. Her foundation board can't get her to be honest and transparent with them now. Imagine what will happen if she has more money and more dollars to spend. Is anyone even listening? There has to be some sort of accountability for Carpenter's continued misuse of our tax dollars. Until that happens, every organization that rewards the foundation with more money and more support, as long as she's at the helm there as CEO, is complicit. City Council, CVB, etc. How do your organizations plan to ensure our tax dollars are safe, accounted for, and used for their intended purposes and not Nancy's? We know Nancy Carpenter has zero intention of transparency. All you have to do is follow her track record with the CVB, the Elks Club, the Tennessee Williams House, and the foundation's budget and spending. Am I the only person who sees the patterns of misuse and malfeasance and subterfuge? Until next time.